Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Personal Growth Recipes with your host, Ron Denner. And I'm going to do a segment I'm going to just simply title Ron's Random Thoughts. These are 5 areas I want to touch on, just kind of random thoughts that I want to put together and share with my audience. And we're going to do this once in a while. We're going to kind of come up with something hopefully that'll help you. Okay, so listen, there's a difference between observing others and being envious. Now, the auto manufacturers, they try to improve their vehicles every year because of the ideas they get from each other. And if you think about it, sports teams and even farmers make strategic decisions based on what others in their profession are doing. McDonald's, take McDonald's as an example, they developed a 200-page book for all its franchisees detailing everything that you need to know about choosing the best location for a restaurant. And Wendy's, their competitor, they simply send their franchisees an email with a single sentence, locate near McDonald's. Now, it's wise to observe what others are doing, you know, if we can do it from a perspective of gaining knowledge. But problems develop when we have a competitive mentality in our relationships. Now, either we criticize those with more or we try to keep up with the Joneses. But unfortunately, by the time we catch the Joneses, they refinance. So the key is not to become envious or jealous of other people. That's the key. The most important question is not how much we own, but how much of what we own owns us. There's nothing wrong with being content with what we have, but we should never be content with who we are. And if we practice gratitude, by practicing gratitude, it allows us to be more entertained by the everyday little things. Some examples, we kind of take this for granted if you don't stop and smell the roses, as they say. A beautiful sunset, someone's laugh, a pleasant memory. The list is endless. Abraham Lincoln once said that the Lord must prefer common people because he made so many of them. It's a pretty good statement. Now, for the same reason, he must also prefer simple pleasures, and so can we. That was number 1. Here's number 2. Humor could be described as irritation plus time equals humor. How often has something irritating happened, and after the passage of time, you look back on the event and laugh? Now, wouldn't it be helpful if we could laugh at some situations when they occur, instead of waiting a day, a month, or even a lifetime before we appreciate the event? Laughter, if you think about it, is really life's shock absorber. Because laughing is literally one of the healthiest things that you can do for yourself. And in this age of political correctness, so many things offend people. We do need to be considerate, not to degrade others, obviously. But what I suggest is that we all need to just loosen up and find enjoyment by laughing at all the absurdities of our human nature. Laughter is one of the windows to our soul. Great statement. Let's move on to my random thoughts, number 3. One of my favorite stories is the traveling salesman who checked into a Holiday Inn late one night. And this salesman, he was one of the first to check in, except for 3 beautiful flight attendants who happened to check in before he did. So the salesman, he went to his room. He turned on the light, but the light didn't work. So he walked over across the window to open the window shades. He walked across the room to open the window shades. And he looked out the window, and he saw the flight attendants skinny dipping in the jacuzzi. But apparently, they thought they were hidden from view. So here he is gawking at these women in the dark, kind of like a peeping Tom. And this would have been against everything his mother raised him to do. It would have been against everything that his church teaches. It would have really been the height of hypocrisy. Okay? But as he stood in the dark, spying on these women, something that Billy Graham, a famous minister, said concerning lust, it came into his mind. Billy Graham said that it's not the first look that's the sin, but the second look. So he thought about that and he said, well, maybe that first look should last as long as possible. But that story makes an important point. See, it's not the first lustful look or the jealous thought that's the sin. Sin occurs when we allow our minds to stay there, to dwell in that place. And in ancient Greece, the word sin was an archery term meaning to miss the target. Now, our thoughts are arrows that can miss the target. And great thinkers have agreed on one thing throughout history, that we become what we think about. And on a lighter note here, I once heard an elderly gentleman say, kind of a funny way of putting it, if we become what we think about, I should have become a woman because I started thinking about him ever since I found out I wasn't one. It's kind of a funny way of looking at it. But think about it. When we're depressed, our mind is focused on negative thoughts. And when we're joyful, our mind is focused on positive thoughts. Two opposites, right? So to varying degrees, we are influenced by people with whom we associate, the books we read, and the things that we watch. And it's been stated that our income is the average of the 5 people that we associate with the most. So you want to kind of watch who you hang out with. Now, the average person reads 2 to 3 books after they graduate from high school. And one thing I've talked in previous podcasts, I highly recommend getting on a reading program, try to read some more books. One of the great sources for me is just go on Amazon. You can purchase used books for a much lower cost, usually a third to a half. The average person watches about 4 to 6 hours of television per day. Now, the news, especially nowadays, it's 90% negative. And the problem we have, these 24-hour news channels, news programs are in need of ratings. But unfortunately for us, negative news attracts viewers much more than positive news. So one of our challenges is that we now have anywhere from 20 to 100 more channels to watch. And your mind is your greatest asset that you have. Let me put it this way. If a burglar came into your house and stole several $1,000s of yours, you'd report it to the police and demand that they be apprehended and caught. Now, if you watch 4 to 6 hours of television per day, I'm not picking on you, you're allowing this burglar known as your TV to steal from your greatest asset, your mind. In my opinion, the greatest economic drain for us as individuals is the amount of television that we spend watching. I'm probably stepping on some toes here. Now, if we diverted some of that time to improving ourselves, it would be a much better investment and return on our time. I would suggest to begin a reading program. A good goal, in my opinion, is 30 to 60 minutes per day. Reading, trust me, will transform your life. It's made a huge difference. Number 4, let's talk about stress. Now, stress could be defined as being stuck in a morning traffic jam after you've had 2 cups of coffee and a bran muffin, kind of like that. Earl Nightingale said of the things that we worry about, 40% never happen. 30% have already happened and can't be changed by all the worries in the world. 12% are needless worries about our health. 10% are petty miscellaneous worries. And only about 8% are legitimate worries, 8%. Now, these 8% are only 2 types of worries, those that we can change and those that are beyond our ability to change. One technique that I've learned is that when we are confronted with a legitimate fear or concern, just do this. Take out a piece of paper and write down what's the worst thing or the things that could happen. What's the worst thing if this occurs? After that, ask yourself, what happens next? What this will do is it's going to clear your train of thought to begin writing down steps that you can take to improve or learn from this. So the worst that could happen, and go from there. Now, if you'll come up with immediate solutions that you can take action on now to improve your situation. And many times to simply solve the original worry. So we're basically making a mountain out of a molehill is what we're trying to say here. Now, stress can also improve our performance. Now, athletes are known for this. They use nervous energy to propel themselves to a higher level of performance. We see it. Look at the Olympics. But our problems occur when we don't have an outlet to burn our nervous energy. This is a major cause of binge eating. You know, it's easy to grab that bag of chips, just devour the whole bag if you're uptight, nervous, okay? Better option, take a brisk walk or some other kind of vigorous exercise. You know, for me personally, I start each morning, ab crunches. I do push-ups, lifting weights, elliptical workout. I highly recommend that you find something that you enjoy, and you can do it any time of day that fits your schedule. Another thing, learn the art of taking what I call 1-minute vacations. Close your eyes and visualize some fun or exciting thing that you've done in the past. Another thing that works is similar to what I call a mini meditation moment. Now, the key to meditation is to pay attention to your breathing. What you want to do is take a few deep breaths and exhale while closing your eyes. You know, the subjects of exercise and meditation would make a complete podcast just by themselves. Maybe that's something we could probably do in the future. Life's stresses are unavoidable. We're not going to get around it. But self-induced anxiety can be substantially reduced. Notice the word reduced. To think life should be stress-free is just foolish. It's not going to happen. So we're going to have stress. We just can't get around it. We just need to learn how to handle it a little bit better. That's what we're trying to get across here. And let's go on to our last random thought here, number 5. Our Western culture could learn from Eastern philosophies that teach the importance of doing everything wholeheartedly. When you work, work. When you rest, rest. And when you play, play. Now, for me personally, this is the one I struggle with. I tend to work while I'm on vacation. My wife can vouch for that. Because of the kind of, really for me, it's the kind of business I'm in. But this is one area that I continue to try and improve on personally. But the one area I think a lot of people struggle with is playing while at work. Now, there's a lot of temptations in this day and age, such as, surfing on the internet, looking at Facebook. These are time wasters, especially when you're supposed to be working. And they need to be done during off work time. That's just common sense. Lack of sleep, that's a major problem in the United States. Once again, for me, I try to get up. I try to get up at the same time 7 days a week. For me personally, keeping a consistent sleep schedule is very, very important. I'll admit it can be a challenge on weekends, but it's a big deal if you want to maintain your energy level throughout the day. Try to get up at the same time each day. This becomes a much bigger factor as we get older. How much sleep is enough? Well, everybody's different. Most people generally need 7 to 8 hours. That's been that way forever. One other item I have used occasionally is about 30 minutes before I go to bed. I found this on the internet. It works. It works for me. You take you microwave a cup of water for about 60 seconds, add 2 teaspoons of apple cider vinegar, 1 teaspoon of honey, mix it together and drink it. I don't know what it does. It relaxes you. And for me, it allows me to sleep the whole night through a lot better. And one other benefit for me personally, I try to take a 10 or 15-minute nap during the day if you're able to. Now, some people are not able to because of their job, I understand. But if you can find the time, do that once or twice even. Now, one last thing that I do that's made a world of difference for me, I begin each morning by grabbing a cup of coffee and I sit alone on the couch. I don't turn on my phone, I don't turn on my computer or start checking emails, none of that. What I do is I take some deep breaths by inhaling through my nose and exhaling for about a minute, just breathing. And I simply relax and I think about the things that I'm grateful for. And I'll spend 10 to 15 minutes just trying to think of 3 or more things that I'm grateful for. It can be something very simple. What this does, this creates a very positive and uplifting way to start the day. And if you find yourself overstressed during the day, stop and do this exercise for a few minutes as your schedule allows. You know, it immediately can shift your mindset from going downhill fast to hitting that pause button and just practicing what I call gratitude. Gratitude, in my opinion, is the number one habit you want to get into, the habit of doing. It'll make a world of difference for you. Well, that's it. Those are I call my random thoughts, my 5 random thoughts. We're going to be doing this kind of thing on occasion going forward here. Hopefully that was helpful. And I do want to remind everyone that if you enjoyed this episode, please be sure to like, share, and leave a comment down below. Follow me on Twitter at Ron Dener. Follow me on Instagram at DenerRon. And please subscribe to my YouTube channel, Ron Dener. And please subscribe to Personal Growth Recipes on Apple Podcasts. And please consider giving us a 5-star rating if you enjoyed the episode. And also to like and share our Facebook page, Personal Growth Recipes. Be sure to tune in next Wednesday for my next podcast, be coming up. And this is Ron Dener, your host for Personal Growth Recipes, serving up and signing off.